the first to make the journey from the family compound in Maryland to Pittsburgh to size up the building.
There's really not a lot of room for error on this project. It has to be right. Over a year ago, we were sent sketches of the building, photographs of the building, and site plans to determine if it was feasible to be taken down with explosives. Not only do you have to say, can it be done, but can it be done where CDI can keep its reputation intact?
CDI, Controlled Demolition Incorporated, is the Loiseau family business. They have grown by exploding bigger and bigger buildings. Their latest target, 500 Wood Street, is going to be a whole new experience, even for them.
This is one of the interesting parts of what we do, is wandering around in the building and trying to figure out where you are and kind of sizing up your adversary.
Wood Street presents some interesting challenges. It will, in fact, be the tallest steel building ever taken down with explosives anywhere on Earth. It's had a new skin put on the outside that is both structural and non-structural, depending on whose word you want to take. It's in the middle of a very old section of downtown Pittsburgh, where you've got sand-cast glass windows right across the street that probably will break. But then right across the street from that adjacent exposure is a world-class, computer-driven financial headquarters for a major bank. So we're dealing with the old, we're dealing with the challenges of the new, and we're dealing with the Wood Street building, which until recently has been the unknown.
500 Wood Street is being demolished to make way for the construction of a new department store and underground car park. The city of Pittsburgh has, controversially, invested $70 million of public money in this new development. The mayor knows if the project goes wrong, appalling damage will be done to the city, and his career will be finished.
Here we have, literally across the street, several large buildings. Over in the next block, two very historic churches, almost 150 years old. Two of the most historic buildings in Pittsburgh. So there's not a lot of room for this building to go the wrong way.
Barely 150 feet from the Wood Street building is the oldest church in Pittsburgh, the First Presbyterian. It is also one of the very oldest buildings in the city, and it contains a priceless national heritage. Along the walls and at the end of the nave are large stained glass windows designed and built by Tiffany, the renowned glassmaker. They are irreplaceable and increase the risks for the Loiseau family enormously.
We've hired a good company. We believe that they know what they're doing, and we'll see, won't we?
We've got a crew up there and good project managers and the skill and the experience to take all of these different pieces of the puzzle and put them together, and we end up with a picture called a successful project. That's exactly what we're going to get. It's going to go well. It won't be a failure.
Mistakes in this business, though rare, can be fatal. In this demolition of a hospital in Australia, carried out by a rival firm, flying debris injured nearly 20 bystanders and killed a teenage girl. But the Loiseau family have taken on some massive projects in the past. They have an enviable safety record, which they are determined to hang on to. And every day, demolition job comes up just outside Pittsburgh. It's another chance for the family to prove their mettle. Every job is incredibly dangerous and potentially lethal. After the building has been prepared by the local demolition contractor, Stacy and Doug arrive and start laying their explosives. They can complete the job in a weekend. On blasting day, Stacy, to her horror, discovers there is a short circuit somewhere in the wires connecting the explosives.
The temperature's dropped so much that all the resistance on each series is
You guys,
dropping.
can you give us the slack back, though?
It may be just the cold, or, more seriously, the wires may have broken. The time for the implosion is approaching, and the local dignitaries are desperate for publicity.
We hope you're back in September for
Yes,
the second.
we have another job for you.
Where's that?
Right
Another
downtown.
job. Didn't you? We thought we get 50% off. No problem. We do two first.
Doug has to put on a show, despite the tension behind him in the building.
Let me go walk the stairs. Let me go see something. Rubbing up against the chain link or...
How many vehicles do you have?
Just one.
Stacy fears that she might have to check every single connection throughout the building because they cannot afford to leave any explosive undetonated.
Someone trashed that line.
Even this small job demands the same attention to detail as any other.
We gotta check that.
They find the break. Luckily, it's on the ground floor. Now, they're ready for the final countdown.
Stacy, are you clear?
We're in position ready.
Yeah, I know.
Ray?
All,
Dale?
What?
Tim Paracella?
clear.
Ten,
9,
8,
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Fire.
The implosion is a success, and Doug is a hero. Back in Pittsburgh, work on the Wood Street building is going slowly. The company, Integrated Waste, have been employed to excavate the site and prepare 500 Wood Street for the implosion. They are starting to experience financial problems and falling behind schedule. Hitting the demolition date is getting very tight. Integrated Waste's lack of effort will cause the Loiseau family more problems later on. The front of 500 Wood Street seems the same, but CDI has gone to work in a big way. Audaciously, they start gutting the building, cutting away its internal supports with acetylene torches, making notches where the explosives will go. The skill is to weaken the structure just enough while making sure the 37,000-ton building doesn't collapse too soon. At the same time, a deep pit is being excavated for the new building, and the sides have to be reinforced to support Fifth Avenue. Cloaked by darkness, at 4 o'clock in the morning, a small armed convoy drives through the deserted streets, carrying 200 kilos of powerful explosives and detonators, enough to destroy the heart of the city. The explosives come in the form of long copper-covered shaped charges. The small ones are meant to go on the top floors, the massive ones designed for the giant girders in the basement.
That's why we need to go up and check all this.
The shape charge itself is actually creating, if you look at this, it's shaped in a V pattern. What you've got is a force that's going to be coming off of the shape here and off of here. This comes to a point right against the steel, which will actually cut it cleaner than you can with the torch.
Pull it gently because we can't put enough in there to hold it steady.
Good.
The inside of the building has been gutted, the lifts have been removed, and everything has to be hauled up by hand. The building is over 300 feet high, and the men hang outside, putting the charges on the upper floors. It's rough, hard, and potentially dangerous work. Even though safety harnesses are worn, it's not for the faint-hearted. One of the great dangers from the explosives is that the copper casing will fly off with the speed of a bullet. The charges are first covered with plywood boxes. They are then wrapped in wire mesh. And finally, in reinforced rubber fabric called geotex, so that any flying debris is contained.
Man, it's close.
You got another rubber band?
Yeah, I'll get it. I'm just worried about we don't have enough shape. We're gonna have to go to 18s on both of these. Do we have two extra 24-inch 600s that I can use up on 16?
The financial problems of integrated waste now begin to seriously affect Doug.
Yes, you do.
They have only just uncovered the upper girders, and Doug realizes that the shaped charges will not fit.
We specified a certain type of charge and a certain length of charge based on assumptions that we had to make. And some of these columns are just exposed. So now we're trying to juggle our shape charge order. Up here, if we don't have a full cut, it's not going to be catastrophic. Downstairs,
The size of the explosives and where they are placed in the building is critical, because the girders have to be properly cut when the building is demolished. Doug is trying to make the 300-foot building fall down within very precise limits.
The task at hand that we have with this building is to make it fall away from adjacent exposures into this pre-excavated pit that we have here. When we do our detonation sequence, we will knock the columns out sequentially to utilize the weight and the gravity to pull the building down in the area that we want it. And we have a problem if we don't lean the structure far enough. If we don't lean it far enough, then we have so much debris here, the building will come straight down and it will overload the walls next to the street, and we'll get debris in the street. If we wait too long, what's going to happen is the building's going to come over. When it falls, it will, as we call it, leg out. It will stretch out across the site, and it could damage surrounding buildings. So actually the timing is the most important and the most critical aspect of this. What we really want is to have a fluid motion. We don't want anything herky-jerky. We don't want a portion of the building to come down and stop, because what that is going to do, it's going to stall the rest of the building and not allow it to flow.
By Wednesday morning, every floor above the second has got some explosives loaded, though the problems with the girders mean that the work on most of the floors remains unfinished. They start the day with Doug briefing his crew.
We've got to juggle some stuff on the charges that are being cut up on 6 and 10. What are you doing today, Jim?
I spend most of my time with property owners along 5th and going up Wood Street this way.
Jim's job is to consult and soothe every person frightened of their business being destroyed, along with 500 Wood Street.
What time do you expect him in?
His tools are his mobile phone, a prodigious memory, and hundreds of business cards.
Still Robert's Jewelers, which is... yes.
The oldest jewelers in Pittsburgh are anxious and need to be calmed down. Jim's primary concern is to downplay any risk of damage and reassure people that CDI has everything under control.
No, I'm not. This is something I'm handing out to people. I don't know if you've heard or not, the implosion is now scheduled for 3:30 on Sunday the 25th. We are primarily concerned with dust, as it would affect you.
The front door, see the gap in the bottom of the door there? Does that all have to be sealed?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, in other words, see these cases?
Yeah.
Now, after the explosion on, we come in on Monday, and there's dust all over there, who's responsible for that? Because you see they're pretty clean right now. In other words, if it's going to shake the rafters and make stuff fall down?
If someone weren't to have a question, if someone didn't have some concerns over you taking a building down next to them, I don't think they'd be all there. Come on, it's not every day somebody blows up a building next to you.
People in buildings with a good view want to take advantage of it and invite corporate guests to see what could be a spectacular show. At this point, changing tactics, Jim has to remind people of the enormity of the explosion and the risks involved.
Sure, go on in.
They wanted to
Have a party.
well, not a party, but use a space to view it for people and family members. And is that still going to happen?
The only problem with that is my arrangements with the police. And
Yeah, I have a problem with it now if I can't allow anybody else to come into the building.
And I agree with that.
Well, if someone,
restricted.
okay, and this is 6 o'clock in the morning. So if someone comes at 11 o'clock in the morning, and they park in the garage, and they can get into the garage, and they walk across the street into the building.
Okay.
Is there going to be a policeman there to
The
stop
policeman's
them?
going to be there to say no at that point. What we do, if somebody does need to be in the building, and again, from an accountability standpoint, we would put somebody with them, and then all you do is step back to a point where you're not behind a window. So in the event something were to come through the window, you don't have somebody standing behind it.
Jim has spent a lot of time talking to adjacent property owners.
The local media are becoming increasingly anxious. At the press conference called that day, there is only one real question. What if it goes wrong?
Jim, there was an implosion that was done in eastern Pennsylvania just recently, and it raised some concerns.
We'd love to know who did it, but no, we didn't do that. Typically speaking, a lot of stack work is done by many different explosive companies, not necessarily people who are experienced in structural demolition.
I know it wasn't you, but it does sort of like, raise concerns and say, well, geez, can that happen here?
But the public relations is a sideshow. At the end of Wednesday, Doug is now concerned that the continuing problems with the contractors are threatening his deadline. So much so that some of the explosives are still not fixed to the columns.
I mean, we're already at Wednesday, and we were supposed to be substantially finished the basement. We were supposed to have completed loading the basement today. Upper floors we were supposed to be totally completed, down to...
We're putting our cover in as we turn the loaders loose.
Right. The burning was supposed to be finished when?
Burning was supposed to be finished Monday.
What do we have left to do on the south side of the building?
South side of the building, columns 34, 36, and 37
That's north side, isn't it?
are miscut. Too steep.
You can't, charge won't fit there all night.
Just cut and cut new boxes.
All right, I think that tonight we burn 34, 36, 37.
So the CDI team work into the night because some of the holes for the explosives are in the wrong place. It's Thursday morning, and Doug's brother, Mark, has arrived at the site.
And that's a problem.
For Doug, it's the last opportunity to get a second
Do you
opinion.
anticipate this coming in and rolling? If we don't get this dropping substantially, it's going to back the rest of the building up, and then we're going to have some spill out on Fifth and Wood.
I think you're going to spill on Fifth and Wood anyway, and with the new facade they put on it and the heavy terracotta.
They have so little room for error that the smallest variations can have drastic results. They must keep debris away from Wood and 5th Street, but they also have to worry about the church and other buildings on the opposite sides of the plot. The biggest problem is now the thick girders in the basement with their massive riveted joints.
What was it? A used car salesman? Thank you. Yep. Yes. No.
They have a last-minute change of plan, deciding to move the position of the explosives on the bottom girders.
Would you have to put the stand off, put the shape through, and then put the stand off on?
Yeah, I mean, it's a nightmare.
It means cutting through the riveted plates. A difficult job. 3 days before demolition, and work has to be redone, and the acetylene torches are lit again. The explosives on the upper floors are connected with detonating cord that burns at incredible speed.
If you were to take a piece of this 5 miles long and put one end in your ear and set the other end off before you could pull it out, you'd be gone.
Timing is crucial to the whole process. Over 1,500 charges have to be connected with great precision so that the building will fall in the right place.
If you look at the drawing that we're working from, you really get a feel for what the building's going to do. Now, if this is the direction of fall, we've run all our lines diagonal to that, perpendicular to that direction. This way what we can do is begin our delays at this corner. These connectors you see in here, these dots, are our delays running from line to line to line to line to line. The X's denote where we put those very small increments of time in between columns to keep down air pressure. So it's actually very logical. It looks like a spider's web when you're standing in it, but it makes a lot of sense.
The connections are complicated because it's vital that every explosive goes off.
start running the risk of having live explosives in the pile, you're now talking about possible injury to the workmen working on that pile, moving the debris, separating the steel from the concrete. So certainly we'd rather take the risk of putting the building in slightly the wrong place and paying for whatever damages occur versus risking hurting other people involved on the project.
Demolition day is imminent, and the whole of the neighboring buildings have to be surrounded by scaffolding and boarded up.
Okay, Mark, stick it out a little bit there. Guys, yep.
Protecting the precious windows in the end wall of the church, just 150 feet away, takes a lot longer than the Loiseaus planned.
Where are you, Stacy?
5th Street side. Turn your left. To get kicked.
That column you're on right there, yes, it does, because you're protecting the next column over, yes.
In the basement, time is pressing. A final series of charges need to be placed against the major girders.
This charge, this very small piece of dynamite, which is going to be placed up against the column here, is going to help push the bottom out from underneath it. So basically you're getting sort of a kicking action, hence the name, a kicker charge. So we're tying all these in right now, actually, on our last one. As soon as we get all this equipment out of here, we can start running our lines like we were running upstairs. Once we've got all the lines run out and all the caps cut in, we're going to be hanging a curtain of geotextile fabric and fence around the whole basement, which is really going to help cut down on fly-up debris from here. This is where our largest charges are, and you have the most likelihood of copper flying. So we're really overprotecting this quite a bit.
The explosives in the basement are so big that not only are they individually covered, Mark also wants the whole basement shielded by a wall of wire fence and rubber geotex. But some of the shaped charges on the girders are not even covered yet, and they can only be reached with the man lifts. The delays are all building up, and Doug is starting to feel the pressure of events.
I mean, we're running out of time very quickly. And I don't want to have to cut corners, but we have to prioritize. And we're going to lose our help from integrated waste at what time?
Probably 5 o'clock.
5:30. Another thing we have to take into consideration, we must finish in the pit with the man lifts today. Because integrated just gave us the revelation that the soil that they're using for the streets is coming out of the ramp. They're digging the ramp out, so we'll have absolutely no access for equipment.
Brother there. Whatever.
At the end of the day, Mark does a final check of the detonating cord on the upper floors. The explosion is planned for 3:30 tomorrow afternoon, and they think they will have enough time in the morning to hang the curtain over the basement and pull it up by hand. By Saturday evening, the church windows are still not completely covered, and that too will need to be finished in the morning. Sunday morning arrives, and it's raining hard. 500 Wood Street stands under low, threatening clouds.
Once the Kantan
The massive shutdown of the city begins. The police prepare to evacuate the city center and set up their roadblocks.
There'll be a lot of curious people down there. It'd be surprising the amount of people that want to stand next to a building that's about to collapse, but they will be there. So when you hear that first blast signal and made your final sweeps through the garage, make sure you're out of the garage, heading out of the area, because if they call you on the radio and they can't reach you because you're down underneath all that concrete, then they're going to stop the contact.
The bus and underground system starts to close down. The heart of Pittsburgh is going to be sealed off. Time and the weather have finally caught up with Doug. The effort to hang the curtain over the basement becomes almost impossible in the driving rain.
You have a piece of 9?
The wet fabric is twice as heavy, and every available hand is required to hoist it up. The explosives must be covered properly before they can even begin to think about blasting. Doug, for the first time, has doubts about making the deadline.
We still have a lot to do, and it's an absolute quagmire down in the hole. So we're having problems moving our equipment around. There's only one ramp and one access down to the basement area. You know, off of Oliver Street, we've got to cover the church. Then we've got to get the man lifts out, and then we've got to dig out the ramp to utilize the soil to cover the utilities. So, you know, we're going to get it today, but to make that 3:30 time frame, we're going to really be pushed. We're just going to proceed like we're going at 3:30, and then we'll make plans after that. I think if push came to shove, if we couldn't make it by dark this evening, we'd do it at 6:30 tomorrow morning. You know, I mean, you just have to do it. Everybody's come this far. You know, there's really no turning back.
And then we couldn't go until 6:30 because of a wedding reception.
The prospect of a delay doesn't worry some, grateful for the opportunity to buy some extra time.
The longer we wait, the better. Let the fog roll out, get a little higher ceiling, buy everybody a little time. Move more dirt, move more equipment. Less stress.
The work covering the church windows continues. The sculpture in the front of the bank also has to be covered. Before the work is finished, people are turning up for their privileged space at the command post. Sheet steel is dragged down the road to cover telephone cables and gas pipelines. While people are still mired in the hole trying to secure the curtain, the ramp is being dug out behind them, and soil is dumped on the street to protect it.
Has that problem that we had been quelled?
Doug is worried about the protection of the shop fronts closest to the explosion.
This is where it's going to get hammered, not up high. Do we have any? We got that extra? Is that extra at the base?
No, that is the base. This all calls for 3 sheets.
Do we have extra fabric?
Oh, it's just right there.
Roll it out, cut it, and let's put it over across the top. Okay? We've got an hour. How long will it take to finish across the street?
That's going to be slow going. It's wet, it's heavy. Take up. Man lift over there to lift it up with. They don't have a piece up yet.
All right, I've gone ahead and said that we're probably going to be closer to the 4 o'clock side. Do you agree with that?
And we have latitude for that, right?
No. We don't go
No,
up.
I mean 2-4.
Yes, up to 4 o'clock.
All right.
All right, for positions, Jim Paracella. Oh, you're at the command post with us. Okay, Mark, you're at the church. Chuck Wilton, you know where you'll be. You're all set and have a radio, right?
Yes.
Stacy, corner of Kaufman. It's 1 block up. It's a department store with a big clock up there. They've got shooters up there, and you need to be with them. Okay?
When can we be ready? Do we want to aim at 3:45? Do we want to aim at 3:55? What's your opinion at this stage?
Mark, we are getting close to being ready over here. That's going to be dependent on when we can get material out of the hole.
Let me talk to you for a second.
Hey, firm, back to channel 2, Adrian and Jen.
Doug secures the firing cable to a wire rail.
Right through here towards the command post. Yes.
They have finally managed to do everything that they think is necessary, and they are running just 10 minutes past the scheduled time.
Do you young ladies know where you're going? You need to get there.
They're waiting for us, I know.
Otherwise, we'll carry you off. That might be exciting, but we're going to carry you off.
Do a little sweep around here.
Who did anyone sweep the room in there and get the last of the gear out of there?
Well, let's get one of these barricades and put it right in the middle of the street with the wire on top. Jimmy, grab another barricade right here.
Doug is still unhappy about some of the decisions that have been forced on him.
One of the concerns I have now is with this torrential rain that we've had. It's caused a lot of problems with access for our equipment and trying to get all the cover up. We had to skip some of the cover that we normally would have put up because we had no access. And I really hope that that doesn't have an adverse effect. Another thing we're concerned about is the ceiling is only about 500 feet. So we could have a reflection of the concussion, which will amplify it and could cause some possible window breakage. But we'll see.
He finally secures the cable to the detonating cord. There is nothing more he can do.
It's amazing that when you do a job, when it's right, there are about 300 people involved. They help blast that building. If anything goes wrong, you're kind of standing there naked by yourself. Kind of like the calm before the storm. Isn't it nice? It's the most quiet it's been here in, what, a week since you've arrived?
Jack, will you say a prayer? Thank you for the work we have, and we thank you for your gravity, and we thank you for your love. May we have a safe job in Jesus' name. Amen. CDI, this is your 1 minute. 11, are you clear? Clear.
Tom?
Clear.
Stacy?
Clear.
Dale? Mark? Jimmy? Give me 30 seconds, and then I'll warm up and I'll do it.
A city holds its breath.
Mark. Mark is clear. Thank you, Jim.
Tom?
Go ahead, Beth.
You clear?
Yeah, we're clear.
Stacy?
Clear.
Dale?
Clear.
All right, here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire. Mark said it rotated the way we wanted to, away from the street, and then just came right apart. Cheated death again. Actually, the timing is the most important and the most critical aspect of this. To get the building listing over and then release its supports. So it'll come away from the street and then bring it straight down. This is Chuck. I'm on site. Everything seems to be under control. The CDI people are very happy. Yes, yes. No, it is definitely not sitting on, nothing is sitting on our building. We're in good shape, sir. This is a blast point on one of the columns. This is where we cut it with the torch ahead of time, and this is where we had our two shape charges placed. And you can see that this cut has copper on it. That's where the explosive actually pushed the copper through the steel. Isn't that pretty? There you go. No, we did, it went off as we planned. You know, I'm really satisfied. You know, right when as soon as a building comes down, it looks like a war zone, especially with a building this size. but all the material that's on the street is just sloughing off the back of the building. It was that skin that we thought would come off. In a couple of hours, this place will be back to normal. Subway, no problems. Utilities, no problems. Computer systems, no problems. There were a few broken windows, which we did anticipate, and especially with the cloud cover that we had. So, you know, it's what could have been expected, but, you know, you're always disappointed if you have one crack.
And to everyone's great relief, the stained glass windows have survived.
Hey, we're the best, man. What do you think?
Oh, yeah.